We're live. We are live. Let's go.
We are live. Hello, Twins territory. Open wide. It is time for another edition of the Twins Daily Dose. We are so happy to be here with you. I am Sweet Lou Hennessy, and I am gathered here with one of my compadres on the Twins Off Daily podcast, Mr. Gregory T. Masterson. What's going on, Greg?
I'm also here with my compadre, Sweet Lou Hennessy. It's good to see you, Lou. I never see you.
Yeah, I know. I never see you either. Nobody ever does. No, like you said, we are very excited to be doing this Twins Daily Dose here. We're going to be doing these live streams on Sunday evenings. Hopefully, you're all enjoying maybe some foosball in the background. Hopefully, you got to enjoy a really good Twins win against the playoff-bound San Diego Padres. I personally did not get to catch as much of that game as I wanted to. Greg, what did you think about today's offering from the Minnesota Twins?
I mean, Byron Buxton just keeps hitting. It's so nice to see. Actually, I was looking. Did you know that the Twins have scored like 6 runs a game over the last week? This is something that we've kind of talked about on the Off Daily podcast, but it's nice to just see them like put up like a competent offense. Like that's kind of what you want right now,
Right.
is for them to be scoring runs. A lot of it is concentrated in Byron Buxton, which I mean, I would love to see it. Obviously I love to see what Buxton's doing right now. I would love to see it be a little bit more spread out amongst the fellas.
Sure.
But no, this is very exciting. This last week of offense, at least.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I feel like Twins territory has been waiting for this kind of offensive consistency for 2 decades. No, I mean, honestly, probably like a year and a half, right? You got to think since the middle of last season, we've been hoping for, some formula that is going to work. It's been mostly the same contributors, it seems like. Like we said, it's been a good series. It's always good when you can squeeze a series win from somebody like the Padres, who are very lethal. I mean, just looking at their lineup when I was at the game last night, goodness, their top 6, 7 guys pretty deep, man. It's they are very competent opponents, and the Twins did a good job. I mean, we're not gonna talk about the last 3 innings of last night's game, but no, I'm sure we will touch on it. But it just feels good that they were able to push a series win across, don't you think?
Do you know off the top of your head when the last time the Twins won a series was? Has it been like 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
I think they said they've lost 5 straight coming into this Padres
5 straight.
series.
Yeah, so I think that the last series that they won was that the Royals series? No. Yeah, the Royals series, I think, at the beginning of August, when we were talking like, hey, maybe this team is gonna like go on a crazy run, maybe sneak their way into just missing the playoffs and also being in the worst draft position ever.
Sure.
But they've rebounded. They've done what we needed them to do and lost a bunch of games since then, for sure.
No, how about this? Did we learn anything new about the Twins, do you think, over the last week, would you say?
Did you see the story about Taj Bradley, or the note that was circulating today?
I was in the post-game scrum last night when he said it, and I was like, is he misspeaking? Like, is he just saying like, I've never had, something specific? But he was like, no, I never. For those of you who maybe haven't read the comments, Taj Bradley basically said, this was my first time looking at scouting reports leading up to a start. Greg, that seems baffling to me. That seems pretty crazy, especially for a pitcher that came from the Tampa Bay Rays system. I mean, a system that's known for their pitching development. I don't know, man.
The bigs for like parts of the last 3 years too.
Right. And like, you got to imagine that a lot of minor leaguers, that's got to be a regular thing, right? I mean, it seems like a really weird comment, but hey, if this was the first time and he keeps doing it, he looked really good last night. So keep doing it, big boy.
So like, I mean, some teams, a lot of teams actually, they might, obviously I'm sure that the Rays have plenty of scouting reports and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of times those, like, it depends on the player. So they might give player A X information, and they might give player B Y information. I know we didn't talk about college algebra or anything like that, but I guess we're doing player A gets Y and X gets B, whatever. But I'm guessing that it was one of those cases. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something where the Rays had it available to him, and he's like, no, I'd prefer to just kind of pitch with feel, or I don't want to get in my own head. And that's why the Rays or other teams will give people different amounts of information or different types of scouting report based on what they need. Because some people, like, you give them a scouting report and they get too in the weeds, they get too overwhelmed by it, they start thinking a little bit too hard. Whereas other guys, so it might be something where he's just like, hey, let me see what happens if I look at a scouting report. I don't know. He looked great yesterday. I would have loved to see him come out for another inning, but I'm sure that they had that pre-scripted out. And I don't care at this point in the season if they've got a game script. They're not trying to win these games. They're just trying to see what they've got.
Yes.
But no, I think that we might have learned a little bit about Taj Bradley. I don't want to overreact to one outing.
Yeah.
But man, did he look nice.
Yeah. Before we get off topic here, Greg, as the technical director of this live stream, do you want to put up a little banner at the bottom of the screen just asking the question, have we learned anything new about the Twins in the last week? Just in case our viewers want to send us their commentary too. We'd love to read what you got to say, viewers. So please let us know what you're thinking if you've learned anything new about the Twins over the last week. Yes, I think that I can't say that we've gleaned too much from Taj Bradley, but it was encouraging for sure, especially like we said, against a pretty formidable opponent to go 5 strong. And it seemed like maybe he could have gone even a little bit further, but I think they were really ready for Mick Abel to come in as kind of the piggyback after that, unfortunately, because it was not a good outing for Mick Abel. So I don't know if we learned too much about him either. He's had 2 pretty rough appearances for the Minnesota Twins, but now's the time for guys to kind of shake off that rust and kind of learn some stuff about themselves.
Well, actually, I don't know if you saw this before we jumped on, but I just think in the last few minutes, they announced that Abel is getting sent down to AAA.
Okay.
Ahead of the roster expansion tomorrow. So it sounds like they're going to be bringing up 2 pitchers tomorrow. And there are only 2 other pitchers on the 40-man roster right now that are eligible to come up unless there's injury, because they can't get Travis Adams or Pearson Olap. So it's just Noah Davis and Marco Raya who are eligible to be promoted without being added to the 40-man roster.
Well, hold on. They can still add a free agent before tomorrow, and they would be playoff eligible in that case. So maybe there's something in the works there. I don't know.
What's Rich Hill up to these days?
Yeah. Did he get cut by the Royals? I missed that.
I don't actually. I thought that he was. Maybe he is still with the Royals. I thought that he had been released or like opted out. But he might still be with the Royals. I'll have producer Lenny get on that.
Yes, well, producer Lenny will get on the topic there. Okay. Other things that we've learned about the Minnesota Twins in the last week, we've learned that Byron Buxton is very good when he's on, when he barrels it up. Man, going Oppo last night was kind of strange to see from Buxton. We've learned that he, pulls the ball so effectively, and I don't know the last time that I've seen him hit one out in right field at Target Field.
Also, what we've learned about Byron Buxton is he can steal third base. There's not like an invisible force field that keeps him from stealing third base. So he stole third base to make him the 7th 2020 player in Twins history.
Yes,
that was super cool.
That was very cool. A lot of people have been saying, well, let him run loose. We want to see him get to 30-30 to be in the 30-30 club. Look, that'd be awesome. That'd be so fun to see, especially because it means that he'd be healthy down the stretch here, and his legs would be feeling good and in a good place. I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe let's aim for like a 30-25 season. Still incredible, like really good. He's approaching his career high in wins above replacement. That's really important. His 2nd straight year playing at least 100 games, which a lot of old-timers will probably roll their eyes and kind of shrug their shoulders at, which understandable. But at the same time, what do you expect? I mean, like it's a step in the right direction as he crosses the 30-year-old mark, and I think that we've learned that Byron Buxton is quite good at baseball.
I mean, we honestly, I hate to be that guy, but we probably missed out on a Hall of Fame career. If he's moving like this as a decrepit 31-year-old who's dealt with all of these injuries, can you imagine what he could have been what he could be doing now, but also what like the numbers that he could have accumulated a few years back had he been playing full seasons, fully healthy? I mean, this is, man, I hate to be that guy. I hate to be the Debbie Downer in the room. Nobody would ever accuse me of that, but
Never.
Man, Byron Buxton has been so much fun to watch this season, and these last 4 home runs in 4 days, like that's been so much fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. Our friend John in the chat here, as you can see posted up here, says that I've learned that Thomas Hatch probably deserves a shot at the 2026 bullpen role. He's been pretty good, man. He's honestly, we've learned in the last week and maybe in the last month that the Twins have a small handful of reliable relievers heading into next year, even after their top 5 options were all traded away at the trade deadline. Cole Sands has been very nasty. Topa has been pretty solid too. Thomas Hatch has been really good. I don't think Cody Funderburk has given up an earned run in the last month.
He just picked up a save too. How
about that? So, I'm going to be writing a little bit about the bullpen picture for zone coverage, and I'm definitely going to be touching on that. And like I said, over the last month, it's been pretty encouraging. And with that, the soft underbelly of the bullpen has been absolutely exposed. Wouldn't you say?
I feel like, looking ahead, we already kind of mentioned the roster expansion, but for example, Pablo Lopez is going to be coming back probably later this week. He's on the 60-day IL, and they are probably going to need to cut somebody to make room for him. And I feel like there are still, like, even with the guys who have been cut last week to make room, I feel like we are a couple of days from seeing the likes of, say, Brooks Kriske or Genesis Cabrera potentially being out of the organization. I know that they're fan favorites and everything, but
right to the heart.
There are still some real bad relievers here. And I am curious, following up on John's question, what sort of role Thomas Hatch could have. Because we're talking about a guy who is never stuck in the big leagues at all. He's mostly, I believe, been used as a starting pitcher. The Twins, I think, have started him once this year, and the rest of his appearances have been out of the bullpen, but mostly as a long reliever. I don't exactly know like what that kind of functionally looks like going forward in a Twins bullpen. Considering kind of the way that they try to use their bullpen, they have really never been able to manage kind of a set long man. But I mean, Thomas Hatch, I don't know if this is just a Linsanity run for him or whatever, but he's definitely, my eyebrow is raised. I wonder what they could do with Thomas Hatch.
Yeah. It's especially considering just the depth of starting pitching that they have going into next year, that it's going to be unlikely that he's going to be competing for a starting role in the major league rotation coming out of spring next year. You never know. Things happen. Players get traded away. Players get hurt. But if he's looking this good out of the bullpen, and like you said, they've been looking for a bulk reliever for a long time. And that's something that's really hard to do, because if you're effective with it, sometimes that means you get sent back down to the minor leagues. You know what I mean? Like the guys who do it really well and just chew up 5 innings and like 85 pitches or whatever. And they have options left. We've seen the Twins just send them right down to AAA. It's hard to really nail down a long-term long reliever in the big leagues. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe the Twins have done this with a few different guys where you kind of transition them into the bullpen, even late in their career. I mean, Thomas Hatch is not a young man, but it's possible they say pare it down to 2 pitches and let's see what you have. I'm not an expert on Thomas Hatch's pitch mix, but I don't know, maybe because I believe that's kind of how Brock Stewart ended up being the guy that he is. He was a starter prospect for quite a long time. Maybe Thomas Hatch could do that. He's just about to turn 31, and he also has no options. So it's not like he's going to ever have too much wiggle room. But I don't know. I'm definitely willing to hear out of all of the names of 30 plus year olds I affectionately referred to as Norman Bugberries. Thomas Hatch is definitely the guy I'd like to have a little bit more of a look at.
Are you gonna? I mean, if things go south for Thomas Hatch in September here, maybe he becomes your Norman Bugbury, right? Maybe he becomes
Maybe
your Tankathon guy.
he is kind of my Norman Bug like that. He's the guy who I had in mind when I put out the Norman Bugbury tweet. So.
Yeah, how about this for our audience who doesn't know what that is? Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, basically, like the best case scenario for the Twins for the rest of the year is that the young starters, the starters who are going to be around next year, come out, they shove for 5-6 innings. The offense puts up about 6 runs, and then in the 7th inning, some guy named Norman Bugbury, who they claimed from the Cubs, who has no future in the organization, gives up 7 runs and they lose the game. Like everybody who you want to be playing well is playing well, and everybody who you don't care about is blowing games so that you're able to sink in the standings. There was a shot actually that if everything went right for the Twins, in air quotes, today, they were going to be tied for the 2nd spot in the lottery with the Pirates. So, man, we are in the dregs of Major League Baseball watching this Twins team.
Oh man, just wait! And with the NFL kicking off, it's only going to be a little darker, I think. Okay, well. Anything else that you want to talk about that we've learned about the Twins over the last week, or should we move on to our next topic here?
I think we're good. I think I've talked about all of the kind of newer developments.
Okay.
Other than like Mick Abel, I don't know what we've learned about him other than maybe he's not ready yet. I don't know.
Could be.
I don't know.
Okay, well, this is a transition into our next topic, which we already kind of talked about who the MVPs of the week were. You know, Byron Buxton having a pretty solid week here. Joe Ryan rebounding today, I thought was really impressive after a couple rough starts leading up to it. How about LVPs? Any least valuable players or big question marks that you still have on your mind after the last week of performances here?
Yeah, of course. That Rockhead character. We've made it 17 minutes, and we've been a little bit too positive. So we need to say that everything is bad. Yep. The Twins will never get better. We're just going to call it like it is and say everybody sucks. Just wanted to get that out there. Good. I don't know what audience we're trying to get to, but that checks off a box for a major part of Twins territory.
It's got to be.
No, yeah. Go.
Here's the deal. So, like, I know you brought that up in jest, but I kind of felt bad for Rocco in the post-game scrum yesterday, just because, like, I don't know how you keep going. Like, it's not that depressing, but like, you know what I mean? We've seen this loss so many times before of just like one killer, brutal inning in the middle innings and just not being able to muster any offense to catch up to them. And you know, it was hard to find positives last night when the Twins lost. I think the final was 12-3 or something like that. They lost pretty significantly. Ryan Fitzgerald pitched the 9th. That's not a good sign. He got a standing ovation coming off after 3 just rockets to dead center field to the warning track. But hey, 3 outs, 3 at-bats, 3 outs, and he got out of there. He gave his team a chance, you could say.
Beyond that, like to defend Rocco or whatever right now, it's not like it was his idea. I'm sure that he had a part in it, but like the idea to leave or to take Bradley out and put Abel in, like they are just trying to get these guys innings so that they can look at them. Like It's not like he's making a bunch of decisions to try to win. And I'm sure, like, as much as we like laugh about the whole like the 2:00 pitching decisions, like no, the Twins are literally making 2:00 pitching decisions right now. And if you have a problem with that, I don't know how to help you.
Sure.
In terms of LVPs though, Brooks Lee and Cody Clemens are not looking so hot this month. This week. Lee had a rough week at the plate. He also had that error early in Mick Abel's first inning yesterday that obviously you don't want to play like butterfly effect, but who knows, maybe the inning goes differently if he converts that kind of routine play. Especially, I don't know. It's disappointing because we've talked about how Brooks Lee is a kind of a major piece to next season, whether the Twins are going to need to find a new shortstop or a holdover shortstop. If Brooks Lee is able to cover shortstop for a whole year or two, don't know when, say, Kalen Culpepper or Merrick Houston show up.
Yep.
And you can't just go find a shortstop. That was one of the reasons that somebody like Carlos Correa is worth so much money. You don't just find shortstops out in the wild or in free agency. You're looking at somebody like Isaiah Kiner Falefa instead. So he had a rough week at the plate. He had a rough week in the field. I would say he's probably up there with the LVP discussion. Also, Cody Clemens, who is playing for his job right now. He is absolutely trying to have some sort of role next year, whether that is, I don't know, he's probably penciled in as your opening day first baseman right now. I mean, or at least he was a few weeks ago. And he has been ice cold for quite a while, including this week. I don't know. Even if you're trying to like find him like a platoon, play a couple of positions role 3-4 times a week, only against righties, like the way he's been going lately, that's not viable.
Yeah, no, it's been a free fall for him. It seems like for weeks, maybe a couple months at this point. Yeah, it's tricky with Clemens. He's under club control. He's going to be, like you said, probably their opening day first baseman if all things remained how we see them going. But I don't know. I'm just so enticed by the idea of somebody like Luke Keeschel playing a little bit more first base. We've seen that can maybe be something that we should have brought up of what we've learned in the last week is that Luke Keeschel looks pretty polished as a hitter, looks a little bit rough as a fielder there at second base. Who knows how much of that is due to the injury and the recovery timeline that was interrupted by his broken forearm, but he's left a lot to be desired defensively. He's looked a little, I don't know. I don't want to say robotic. I feel like that's maybe overused a little bit, but he looks a little choppy at second base. It seems like
it looks like he's thinking a little bit too. It's not as natural as I feel like, and that could just be because he has not played the position in a year and a half full time. I don't know. Like I was trying to think about that earlier this week. Like how long, even if you have been playing baseball your entire life, and I assume that Luke Keeschel has been playing middle infield for his entire life. Right. Like if you just take a year off of that, how quickly does it come back to you? And then you add in the bugaboo with him just, like him learning how to use his arm again. But it's not always been his arm. That's kind of the worrisome part is it's, if it was just that his throws were off or they were short or he was alligator arming it, that would be one thing. But I don't know how much taking all of that time off really does to kind of your instincts and everything like that.
Sure. Also, I mean, he's a young player. He's a rookie. He's allowed to make rookie mistakes. You know what I mean? Like this does not necessarily indicate that it's going to be a struggle for him for his entire career. It might not even be as much of a struggle next season. You know what I mean? But if we're just talking specifically about the last week, it has looked rough. And I think it's okay to bring that up. And especially as the team is starting to look for answers that they can kind of write in pen for the 2026 lineup. I think Keeschel is firmly in that position. I think they're definitely writing his name in with pen, but it's been rough.
Yeah. I guess we kind of skipped over them when we were talking about high points, but I also want to give a shout out to Austin Martin, who has looked nice at the plate now. I don't know how long that's going to hold up, but man, he is absolutely playing for his job right now. Actually, over the last week, he has an OBP of over 600. So he's been awesome. Still kind of a work in progress out in the field. I don't know how old you can get while still being a work in progress before you're just a bad fielder. But Austin Martin has been impressive. And also Trevor Larnach, who is, I don't know that he's playing for his job right now, but the better he plays, the more likely the Twins can possibly get something for him as they kind of try to clear out the log jam in the corner outfield before next year. So Larnach's been looking quite a bit better over the last week than he had been for a few weeks now.
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, not sure he's necessarily a big part of next year's picture. We'll see. That's still to be determined. Austin Martin, though, very well might be. At this point, he's got maybe like a 730 OPS. He's looking a little bit more comfortable out
he's
there.
A league average hitter.
Hitter. Yep.
Honestly, yeah.
And as half of a platoon probably out there, just given the depth of left-handed hitters that they have in their 2026 outfield, I'd be okay with that to start the year. Someone like Austin Martin as a bench option and, maybe a platoon left fielder. I know that's not exciting considering, pinch runner, right? It's not exciting considering that he's a former top 100 guy. He was a big piece of the Barrios trade that you were hoping that he would develop into maybe like a regular player or even a super utility guy who could play infield and outfield in a few different spots. That's looking a lot less likely at this point. But he could still be a valuable, secondary piece of this lineup. Someone who starts once or twice a week, comes in late in games. It feels weird to say that as a defensive replacement because that's still kind of a work in progress for him. But I've been encouraged with his audition over the last month. And I think his ceiling has lowered since the last few years, but that doesn't mean that the floor bottomed out yet.
No. So that's been encouraging. In terms of like when we're talking about, what have we learned? I'm still not sure who James Outman is. I guess that'll probably. I'm hoping to get a better idea of that over the last month of the season, but I really don't know what to make of James Outman at this point either. And poor Edouard Julien. I don't know. Like he's out hitting Cody Clemens. So I don't know if we are too quick to suggest that he might be on his way out, but I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of those guys.
It seems like, I don't know, his gaffes, I guess you could call them, or, Edouard Julien has kind of a reputation of being a little bit aloof, right? Kind of maybe a goofy guy. I'm wondering at what point this coaching staff is kind of like, we don't know how to coach this guy. We don't know how to build this guy up. I'm not saying they're at that point right now, but it's the goofiness, the aloofness feels a lot more comfortable when the team is winning and successful. And it's that they're not at that place right now. So it feels a little bit out of place, maybe.
That is a funny that I don't know. I had not actually considered that aspect, and I don't want to say like I'm not going to make it specifically about Julien.
Sure.
But like those guys who are in the locker room who it's like when you're winning, they're awesome to have around. And when you're not winning, it's like, I'm sure Sergio Romo was that type of guy. If he was playing on a losing team and he was up to his little antics, I'm sure that would probably rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah, could be. Last thing that I guess we've already talked about what we've learned. MVPs, LVPs, we kind of talked about that. Any unsung heroes, would you say, of the Twins over the last week? I'll give Mickey Gasper his flowers for the game-tying home run in Toronto. That was fun, and his first big league home run, and in a pivotal spot. I feel like I didn't see enough about that, so I'll give Mickey Gasper his flowers as the unsung hero of the last week.
I'll give that. Honestly, I'm going to give that to Simeon Woods Richardson, just because he was able to get pitching again. Like that is, I'm just impressed that he's out there. He struggled absolutely, but coming back from a stomach virus, shout out Simeon Woods Richardson. We are not above at the Twins daily dose. We are not above moral victories, and Simeon Woods Richardson getting back out there. Also, unsung hero Ryan Fitzgerald for being the only player yesterday to record an inning and not give up a run. So good for him. I feel like we've not seen as much of Ryan Fitzgerald over the last couple of weeks than I thought we might. Obviously I don't think that he has some great future on the team or anything. Please, Ryan Fitzgerald, if you're out there, please don't get mad in the comments about me saying that. But I don't know. I felt like they would maybe give him a little bit more runway over these last few weeks than they have, because he had a few good games that he strung together.
Yeah. And obviously part of that is because Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, Luke Keeschel are playing basically every day. And it's probably more important to see what they can do. That's funny you mentioned that about Ryan Fitzgerald, because one of our Twins Daily writers wrote a piece where he mentioned, hey, Ryan Fitzgerald's days with the Twins might be numbered, who knows, just based on, where his role with this club and the opportunity that's in front of him. It might not be a massive window for him. And he kind of retweeted that as like, oh, my days in MLB are numbered. Well, then I guess it's numbered for Byron Buxton and Aaron Judge. He named like a bunch of all-star players that are similar age to him, 30, 31. And it's like, yeah, man, we're not saying that about them though.
I'm glad you also saw that.
Yeah, no, it's and like, Lucas, the writer of the piece, I don't think he tried to say that as like, oh, Ryan Fitzgerald is terrible and he shouldn't be in the big leagues. I don't think Lucas was trying to say that at all, but I think it's realistic to say that his window of opportunity to claim a long-term spot is certainly slim at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I don't need to belabor the point. I'm going to move on. Also, I know we already gave him a shout out, but I actually think that Cody Funderburk has been one of the more underrated guys over the last couple of weeks. Like, he has been shoving, and I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know if they finally, because I mean, if we're being honest, Cody Funderburk has been one of those guys. I think this is like the third year in a row where Twins fans and people within the organization have been saying like, oh man, this might be the year that he clicks. And I really hope that we don't get to like the Jorge Alcala point where I believe this was year 6 of opening the season saying, man, if everything clicks for Jorge Alcala, the Twins might have a dude. I hope that we don't end up hitting that point with Cody Funderburk, whether it's because he does click and he becomes like a solid middle reliever or a setup man or whatever, or we just get over the chasing the dragon with him. But Fundy is one of those names that we have been throwing out for a few years now. Like, man, if that clicks, he has the stuff to be an effective middle reliever or setup man. So who knows? Maybe we're seeing those wheels start rolling, especially next year as we look ahead. And the Twins don't really have lefties. They don't have lefties right now. Cabrera is a lefty, but I doubt that he's going to be around. And we are not. I don't think that we're seeing Connor Prelip, unless man, they need 2 pitchers tomorrow.
That's true.
What if?
Hey, let's put it out into the ether there. 2 things with Fundy real quick. Like you said, he's had a really good month, getting some really big outs. I hope that he continues that. And I wouldn't mind if the Twins looked at another cost-effective veteran lefty to bring in over the offseason. I wouldn't mind them just re-signing Danny Coulomb and having him come back for another round on this merry-go-round, or even Caleb Thielbart. You know what I mean? Like maybe an established lefty that they can get for $3 to $5 million. Maybe, somebody that fits in there. I don't want them to go into next season with Fundy as just the lone lefty, relying on him to be the only guy out there, because even when that went well with Coulomb, it was difficult having him be kind of the only lefty out there. So I hope that they still bring in another option, maybe Hatches that, some of the internal guys could be that too, but hopefully Fundy keeping it up is a positive development. Second thing with Fundy, they got to give him a good entrance video. They traded away the rest of their entrances. So Duran with his awesome Tarantula entrance with the lights going down, Griffin Jacks with the X gon' give it to you DMX, Louis Varland with his Hulk video, which felt a little cheesy, but was still pretty fun.
I never saw it. I did not realize that. As an out-of-stater, I did not realize that there was a Louis Varland Hulk video.
Yeah. So it was like, so he had a ritual whenever he would come into the game, he would be warming up. And then as soon as he would come in, he would turn around. And I think that it was Colby Suggs, the bullpen coach out there, would smack his back as hard as he could. It looked like just to wake him up a little bit. And they kind of implemented that into the entrance video where it was like Louis smash or something like that. And they would show that. And then his skin would turn green or something. It wasn't as good as the other ones, but either way, Fundy with his Thunderstruck entrance, I think they could have some fun with that, and I hope we get to see it next year for sure. Okay,
that would be cool.
how about this? We're at the 35-minute mark. Let's talk about what do you think this team would look like right now if they had not sold so heavy at the deadline? You know what I mean? Let's say they were a little closer to contention. Let's say maybe they had a few more wins. They were heading into the trade deadline with like a 500 record. They decided to, maybe reasonably, they sold Danny Coulomb. They sold one of Jax or Duran, but they held on to 3 really good bullpen pieces and Carlos Correa. What do you think that this team looks, record wise, a lot different, or just morale wise looks a lot different? What do you think would change?
I mean, is it insane to say that they would just look exactly the same? Are we both trying to?
I think we are. Yeah. You okay. Go ahead. There you
go. So if I don't know, like this bullpen, like it's not as good of a bullpen as the Twins bullpen in the first half. I am never going to say that. Don't put in the newspaper that I said that the bullpen is exactly the same. However,
what's a newspaper?
ERA, the newspaper was what we would sit on the john and read before we had the cell phone. So I mean the ERA of the bullpen this like in the second half is better than it was in the first half. So if we're talking about just like the overall effect of the bullpen, there's reason to think, granted, like some of that was like contained in blow-ups. Obviously, like your top 5 guys were all running, I mean, with the exception of Jax, we're running good ERAs. But I don't know, man, like I don't think that the bullpen would have been markedly better had they not traded them. I think that's like the big one. Carlos Correa has been pretty solid. I don't know if he'd be doing that in Minnesota. I don't know. Like the Twins have been really bad. They have been very, very bad. It's very discouraging looking ahead for next year. And yet I don't know that they would be much better if they had not sold up. Like maybe, if Harrison Bader is still around, like he was a net positive, but like Willie Castro has been bad. Ty France has kind of stepped it up, but we've seen kind of the whole Ty France gambit where he looks nice, he doesn't look nice, yada yada. Chris Paddock being around, I don't think makes a huge difference.
Right.
I don't know. I would say it's a toss. I don't know. I feel like they may have like 2 or 3 more wins had they not sold everything. I don't know. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's hard to say, like you said, and you can't necessarily just take the performance that the traded away guys have had with their new teams over the last month. Who knows if that would have translated? Who knows if maybe they've picked some stuff up from their new coaching staffs or the developmental staff. But I don't know. It would be interesting to see how they would have kind of juggled Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Brooks Lee and Luke Keeschel all at the same time. It'd be kind of fun to see and a good test for these guys. But I don't know if they would be like, on the precipice of a wild card berth or anything like that. They might be a few games higher in the standings, but I don't know if they would be anywhere close to contention. Right.
Yeah, I struggle to see them anywhere close to contention, even if they have all 11, because we can't forget Randy Dobnak. Even if they have all 11 of those guys that they traded away. I'm not saying that they like improved or anything, but I think that they just would have been bad either way. Which, gosh dang it, that's like an existential thing as we like look ahead to next season, where it's like, okay, maybe new ownership comes in, and I'm not saying that they're going to spend a ton of money, but they have some spending room. They might have $25 million to spend on free agents or whatever, and they have some pieces that they could trade away. I don't know. My longstanding flag in the ground is that Trevor Larnach is going to get traded for like a sort of like the Nick Gordon, Stephen Okert trade. I feel something like that might happen, right? You can do some scrambling and you can spend some money, but if this team is just like god awful, like it has been over the last month, like all of these guys are going to be back next year. There is no like, obviously, like Walker Jenkins is on the horizon, and Emmanuel Rodriguez might be, and they have some other interesting pieces. But, like, I don't know, man. Like this might just be a godforsaken team next year too. I don't know.
I love that the example you brought up in a hypothetical Trevor Larnach trade was like a consensus lose-lose for both teams of Nick Gordon and Stephen Okert. Let's hope they aim a little bit higher there.
I don't know. Like I don't think that there has been another kind of like big leaguer for big leaguer trade that resulted in a relief pitcher coming in the Twins. I believe that this is the only one to draw from when you're looking for an example. But yeah. I mean, who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? How would this team look if they didn't sell at the deadline? Do you think morale would have been much higher with Twins fans? I think it probably would be. I think that if they made the argument that they're still trying to hang in it, whether they're succeeding in that or not, maybe it's just the scorched earth reactions that we saw after the sell-off, rightfully so. Like, I think that was disappointing for so many people. And, I think you saw a lot of people live in the moment kind of turning off the Twins for the season at that point. So I think that a lot of those folks probably would still be watching maybe, but at the same time, who knows what that means for their future, 2026 and beyond. I don't know. I also find a little bit of peace in this part of the season where a team is out of contention and trying to find some answers. Luckily, they found a couple of answers, and I hope they continue to find more. But something about being at the ballpark during that is peaceful to me, and I know that's not shared among a lot of people.
No, I agree. I mean, baseball is beautiful all the time, and there is kind of a freeing aspect to the Twins having a fire sale and kind of turning over every single rock and whatever. Like there's no need to win right now. Obviously, you want to win, and that's part of the game. But like there's no dire need to figure things out right now. There is room to do stupid things like piggyback McAbel and Taj Bradley and just kind of see what happens. Like there's room for that because you want to get a look at these guys, and that's probably the smartest way to play this out. But like as Twins fans, we're not like held captive by the wins and losses because while if guys are playing well, that means good things for the future. And if guys are playing poorly, that means bad things for the future. But that's the future. We don't actually have to like it's future losses almost like future Greg will figure this out. If they're playing badly, I don't actually need to be disappointed, at least until next year when the games count. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it definitely does. And you know what? That leads us into our next topic here, which is what would you like to see from the Twins over the next week to consider it a successful week? You know what I mean? It's not going to mean 6 straight wins or anything necessarily, although that would be a pretty good success. I don't know, debatably, right? I mean, if you're aiming for your Norman Bugbury situation, it's the opposite of that. But who are you hoping steps up this week? Who would make this a successful week in just 6 games from now?
Yeah, I mean, right now I want to see the starting pitchers pitch well. Like I think that that's probably thing number one if you just isolate like a topic. Because Woods Richardson did not look good this week in his return. Bailey Ober did not look great. It was fine. Like it was slightly encouraging, I guess. It was not as bad as it has been. However, his velo is way down. Like worst velo of his career. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's if I've gotten to the point that I don't need to see any more Bailey Ober this year, but also like every time his turn comes around, I'm like, maybe this is the week. Maybe he's going to be pumping it up to 93 again, and I can like sleep soundly all off season, not worried about his velo. Joe Ryan bounced back from a rough start today. He looked very good. I want to see Taj Bradley capitalize on this, maybe get some good momentum going.
Keep reading those scouting reports.
And then I believe they haven't like announced it, but I would assume that Pablo Lopez is going to start maybe Friday or
Yeah.
Saturday. So that's a big one. I want to see Pablo Lopez look fine. So like if you can get 4 or 5 good starts this week, I feel a whole lot better. I feel like that, like excluding everything else, just looked at in a vacuum, that is probably a great week.
Yep. Those were items 1 and 2 and 3 on my list. Was would love to see Bailey Ober continue trending forward and Pablo Lopez hitting the ground running. That doesn't mean he needs to go out there and shove for 7, 8 innings or anything. Even if it's a shorter than normal start, show that the stuff is playing well and that his velocity is there and he's feeling good. Even if it's a shorter start, I'm okay with that. But if he can show the goods this week, that's going to be important. Taj Bradley, continuing after a solid effort of 5 innings last night. It would be great to see him kind of maybe in the next month just kind of cement himself as like, okay, he's going to be competing for a rotation spot like right away coming into the season next year. He'll be your 4 starter. And maybe if he has a little more success and the new pitches that he's been working on continue to play up, maybe he could be, thought of in that same picture as Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober as kind of 3-headed monster at the top of the rotation. And who knows if all 3 of those heads are going to be in the rotation next year. So Taj Bradley might have an even more pivotal role. But yeah, would love to see that. And on the offensive side, purely for the next few weeks, I want to see Royce Lewis and Brooks Lee make the most of this opportunity. And I think that, it's going to be a big test for them. Royce might need to make some adjustments, which it sounds like he has trouble accepting, but I think it's going to be important over the last month here, especially as the team kind of evaluates him as a cornerstone piece of this offense. And Brooks Lee, he's going to play every day at shortstop. Continue owning his defensive skill and coming alive with the bat from time to time, at least, I think is going to be important. I would love for both those guys to be at a 700 OPS by the end of the year. And I think they're both sitting around like 670, somewhere around that right now after a few solid weeks. So I would love to see it. It wouldn't be, I'm not going to go crazy over 2 top prospects, former top prospects having a 700 OPS, but after how bad their bats looked in the middle of the season, that would be really encouraging.
Yeah, and on the hitter side, also beyond kind of your big names there, I would love to just see like a good week from like 2 of Martin, Outman, Julian, Clemens, something like that. Like as you're trying to figure out what your bench looks like going forward, all 4 of those guys could be bench pieces for the Twins next year. If 2 of the 4 of them have a good week, I think that that's a good thing. Also, just I want to see like a more even approach on the offensive side, where like these last few days, this last week or so, has really been carried by the Twins don't win that game without just Mickey Gasper having the game of his life, right? And we're not. I don't want to, depend on Mickey Gasper having a Byron Buxton game to have good output from the offense. Like I said, they scored 6 runs a game over the last week. Like that's awesome. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of a spread out nature, so it wasn't Buxton and Wallner and Keishel kind of carrying 80% of the load. Larnick and Martin also had good weeks, whatever. But, you've got a whole bunch of guys there toward the bottom of the order or sometimes at the top of the order where it's like, if you guys could also carry a little bit of weight, I feel a whole lot better about this team.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We talked about Luke Keishel kind of maybe nailing down some of his defense there at second base. I don't think we're going to see him anywhere else in the field this year, right?
Yeah, I don't foresee it. Maybe a little bit of first base, but I think that they really just want to get a look at him at second base and see what he's capable of doing at the big league level. Like if you do want to move him to first base, I don't know that we care about doing that right now. I think that that's something he's already got some experience there. You can work on it in spring training. Right now, they have an opportunity to get a month of looking at him actually working at second base. And I think that they should just continue to do that.
I'm going to throw up this comment here from CJF in the chat. He said, are we getting a "Are Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez still twins" segment this winter?
Oh, no.
CJ's talking about a segment that we did on the Twins Off Daily podcast where it was, is Chris Paddock still a twin? I think we started it in January, right? December, maybe?
December, January. It was early in the offseason.
Right. Because he looked like a reasonable trade candidate and then obviously came into the year with the Twins in their rotation, but looked like a pretty certain sell at the deadline, and eventually he was sold at the deadline. So yeah, CJ, honestly, I'd be depressed if we did that, or maybe not. I feel like
that's never stopped me. Upsetting Twins fans and rubbing Twins fans' noses in something that's going to happen has never stopped me before. I would be open to it. I'm the one who runs the music and everything. So whether Sweet Lou likes it or not, I think we might have to institute that on the Off Daily podcast, which is probably a little bit more lighthearted than what we're trying to do on the Daily Dose.
Could be, but good question, CJ. Steve in the chat also says here, if the Twins aren't a complete embarrassment, I wonder how much MVP attention Buxton gets. Top 10 ? Similar idea with Joe Ryan and Cy Young voting. I think both those guys are going to get votes for both those awards. I don't think they're going to be in the top 3 necessarily, but I think they're definitely both going to get consideration with a reasonable September, right? Wouldn't you think, Greg?
Yeah, I think that if you just want to look at WAR, Buxton is, I think, 11th in one form of WAR in the AL and 14th in another. I think that there's going to be votes for Byron Buxton. I don't know. I think I would, if I had to bet on yes or no, would Cheap Polad have to pay him a contract incentive for his MVP finish, which I believe is top 10. I think is where his incentives start. I would say yes. I think that he probably will end up in the top 10. Joe Ryan, I don't know. I haven't looked at I think that there's a pretty good shot that Joe Ryan does end up in the top 10. I think we're at a point in baseball right now where you don't necessarily need to play for a good team to get MVP and Cy Young votes as much as you did in the past.
Sure.
I'm sure that it's a, if you're trying to decide who wins MVP and you have one guy who's on a 70-win team and another guy who's on a 100-win team, you probably give the nod to the 100-win guy. But when we're talking about just especially down ballot, it's more best players, best hitters, best pitchers. Yeah, I feel pretty good about them probably being in the low. I don't know. Joe Ryan is pretty underrated, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So Joe Ryan, incredible first half, probably top 5, I would say, probably in Cy Young voting, for the first half alone. He had a 2.72 ERA, made an all-star team. If you make an all-star team and have a pretty good second half, you will get votes. You will get votes for sure.
Yeah.
Especially just because your name's in the national spotlight. Joe Ryan, second half, obviously a couple blow-ups. So he's got a 4.66 ERA, but under the hood, his stats are still quite good. In the second half, he's got a 10.5 K per 9 and 1.4 walks per 9.
Does that include today?
For Joe Ryan, this is on Fangraphs. I don't know how quickly they update it, but if not, those numbers look even better, right? I mean, he had 7 strikeouts today, something like that. So, 28.5% strikeout rate. Now we're getting in kind of some nerdy numbers, obviously, and not necessarily everybody who votes for these awards will look at that. But, you could look at Byron Buxton's second half too, and it's been pretty strong as well. Like I said, if you're an all-star in the first half and then you put up a reasonably good second half, you're going to get votes, even if they're maybe down the ballot.
Yeah. And I think that both of them have been good enough to keep their names in consideration. I'm super curious about the AL MVP race too. Not necessarily Byron Buxton, but I think that the top 2 or 3 names are going to be get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And so you might see some sports writers who are very, very concerned with those top 2-3 names. Just say, oh yeah, Byron Buxton's looked good, I'll put him 7th. And that's all you really need is a handful of like people to say you're the 7th best player in the league, and
Right.
all of a sudden you're in the top 10.
Right. Yep. Nice. Well, hey, that might be a good topic for us to bring up in a future daily dose here that we do on these Sunday nights. For right now, I think we might just put a bow on this. We're approaching the 7:00 hour here, and we'll probably try to aim for 45-minute to an hour-long episodes. Thanks to everybody who joined. I think it's been a lot of fun so far, getting the dose back up. Greg, any last words before we shut this thing down?
Yeah, this is like Lou said, this is going to be something we're doing regularly, inspired by the Twins Daily trade deadline stream, which was a whole lot of fun. Twins Daily wants to do a little bit more of that.
Yep.
And so we're going to be trying to do this every Sunday night. From
at least for the rest of the season, and then probably mixed in the off season too. I'm not sure if we're going to have an hour worth of stuff to talk about every Sunday in the off season, but we'll try to keep them regular too. But for right now, we'll probably just plan for each Sunday the rest of the year. It's not always going to be Greg and I. There might be some other personalities from Twins Daily that are leading the charge here, but we're really excited to bring it to the people, and we hope that you've had some fun just listening to some Twins. Maybe you're watching a game in the background. Maybe you're watching the game of the week or some football or something, and you just want to hear some Twins talk. We're happy to provide that for you, and we would love for you to jump in the conversation with your comments, especially with your gripes. If you have gripes with this Minnesota Twins team that you want to bring up and for us to read aloud,
with Sweet Lou,
we are happy. We are happy to bring that up. And if you've had some fun with us here, we do a lot of fun stuff on the Twins Off Daily podcast. We try to come at you with a episode every single off day. We mix in some goofier stuff too. We did a lot of ball talk in this one, but we like to have a little more fun on the Twins Off Daily podcast. So we hope you join us there too. Otherwise, everybody, thank you so much for joining, and we will see you next week on the Twins Daily Dose.
We don't have